وأقم الصلاة إن الصلاة تنهى عن الفحشاء
الرحمن الرحيم الحمد
والمنكر.
لله وصلى الله وسلم وبارك على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه ومن والاه وبعد. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Welcome back to another class inshallah ta'ala. And as we enter into Salah, we have to mention that we are in Kitabus Salah, the chapter of Salah. And in our previous class, we focused on what? The shurut, the conditions. And we said that there are two types, but then there are some conditions which يجتمع فيها الوصفان. In those conditions, the two sifat, the two attributes, they come together. Basically, conditions of validity and conditions of obligation. Some of them can work with both, depending on the situation a person is in. Now, as we enter into Salah, you notice that فرائض الصلاة باب في ذكر فرائض الصلاة وسننها ومكروهاتها وفضائلها. But before that, however, when you look at the text itself, you find that the shurrah of the main text that we look into, the text of Al-Ashmawiyah, نفعنا الله به وبعلومه في الدارين آمين رب العالمين, they start with explaining فرضت الصلاة ليلة الإسراء عندما أسري رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم إلى السماء السبعة, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala was. And Allah took the responsibility of prescribing salah directly to Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. خلافا عن كل الشرائع, all of the other the ahkam of the sharia, all of the other laws, they were all sent upon Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam via whom? Jibreel alayhi salam. فكان هناك واسطة. Lakin when it comes to salah, Allah decides to prescribe it upon Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam while he was right in front of him. And then he went back and forth while Musa alayhi salam is assisting him, knowing the situation of the ummah and how he dealt with his own people. But what you notice is that, ask yourself this: why would Allah decide to take the matter of salah in His hands? Like literally, He is the one that prescribes it upon Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam directly. Rather than, if you look at all of the other ahkam and shara'i', you notice that Allah decides to send them to Rasulullah and reveal them upon Rasulullah and prescribe them upon the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam by using whom? Jibreel alayhi salam. There's a significance in salah. I want you to bear in mind that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, فَخَلَفَ مِن بَعْدِهِمْ خَلْفٌ أَضَاعُوا الصَّلَاةَ وَاتَّبَعُوا الشَّهَوَاتِ فَسَوْفَ يَلْقَوْنَ غَيًّا. All of the prophets that came before, and also the righteous who left behind progenies of their own, you end up realizing that the generations that came later on, was it because of their fault? Actually not. The generations themselves are the ones that faulted, and the first thing that they did in order for them to take the wrong path, أضاعوا الصلاة. They did not pay attention to their salah. They became heedless to fulfill their salah. And when they did that, as a result, what happened? وَاتَّبَعُوا الشَّهَوَاتِ. The first thing that ever happened, اتَّبَعُوا الشَّهَوَاتِ. They ended up following their desires. And when we say desires, we're not saying desires as in what you desire as man from the mubahat. But actually, for those that which you know, other than that which Allah wants from you and I, other than that which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has prescribed upon you and I. And when you realize that, then there is a problem, and it all begins with the salah itself. But then you might be questioning, some people, they do pray, but their akhlaq is not similar to their prayer. What's wrong with that? That's a topic for another day. But for now, you know. Look at the state of the ummah today. Look at the condition of the ummah. Al-ummatul Muhammadiyah. Where is it? How is it? Look at the generations that grow up. Is salah the first thing that they encounter in their lives? Aren't they the same children that grow up and they don't even know the difference? I'm going even further now. If I say the difference between a fard and a sunnah of salah, I should not even be asking that. They don't even know the difference of dhuhr and asr. Some of them. They don't even know the difference of asr and maghrib. If you ask them how many raka'at there are in salatul maghrib, they don't even know. And there are some of those who are adults, they don't even know that, subhanallah. Now think about it. If an ummah has neglected their salah, what happened next? اتبعوا الشهوات. They would take other than that which Allah wants from you and I as a law which they would follow. And it will all be based on desires. And on top of that, as a result, they prepared themselves a position on the day of judgment which is not going to be positive. It's a negative position. It's a place which is a place of pain, a place of chastisement, a place of punishment, which none of us want to be in that position. Think about it. But far and beyond, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam had salah prescribed upon him during the time when he went on the journey of the night, and he ascended all the way to the heavens. Because remember, just a year back, it was a year known as Amul Huzn, the year of sadness, the year that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam suffered the most emotionally, mentally, physically. No man would be able to bear it. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam go through what he went through. Remember, Khadija radiallahu anha has passed away. His own uncle Abu Talib has passed away at the same time. Khadija is the one that she gave up her wealth, her health, her ability, and took the responsibility of backing Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Abu Talib defied every odds and turned away against his own people and became the shield of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And beyond that, what you realize, those were the two main means of protection for Rasulullah on this earth. Does that mean Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam did not know that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala was the one protecting him? Of course he knows. Who is greater than Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam when it comes to Tawheed? أَلَيْسَ هُوَ الَّذِي عَلَّمَنَا التَّوْحِيدَ عَلَّمَنَا مَنِ اللَّهِ Isn't he the one that taught us who Allah is to us and how we have to understand Allah dearly? Isn't he the one that did that for us and brought this as a favor to you and I? And then when these two people passed away, look at what happens next. He tries to seek a means that literally not only can he seek protection, but allow the deen to spread. And to his understanding, he went to Taif. When he went to Taif, he did not get anything positive out of it. In fact, the outcome was extremely negative, that he was destroyed by being attacked physically. He was hurt emotionally. And on top of that, what really hurt him the most was the betrayal from the leaders of Taif. Think about how much pain he was suffering from. But then he still holds on to the path of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, as a gift, not only does he take him to the night journey and then allows him to ascend all the way to the seventh heaven, a place where Jibreel alayhi salam cannot cross. Think about it. But in fact, beyond that, what does he do? He gives him salah as a gift. As-salatu sababun لزوال الإزالة الهموم والغموم. Think about it. Salah is a means of erasing and removing and eliminating in our lives problems, mashakil, and also anxiety, mental problems. Through salah we attain tranquility. So through salah we attain peace. Through salah we find ourselves. Salah is the only time when you're in there and you're sincerely praying, not rushing. You're just standing and then you're up and down mechanically, you're going up, you're going down, you're going up, you're going down, and that's it. But actually when you pay attention to your salah, you end up realizing that it's the only time that your mind is at ease. Despite the fact that the world is bleeding today, is suffering today, all of the chaos, the noise, and the problems that people are witnessing, whether through social media, whether from governments, whether from others, from nations, and from their own families being attacked left, right, and center. But the moment you enter salah, everything else becomes blank. Everything else becomes quiet. The world shuts down. The only thing that remains is you with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Imagine how beautiful that is, how amazing that is. Hence we have salah. Only if our generations understood the importance of salah. But you need to understand this, in order for you to be able to keep this deen standing firm within you, and within myself, and within any one of those who will come to grow up as Muslims, salah umudud deen. As-salah is the pillar of this entire deen. Whoever does not keep it firm, the pillar gets destroyed, and once it's destroyed, the whole building falls apart. But whoever keeps it firm ends up realizing what? That their deen as well is firm. I advise you, including myself, no matter what sin you commit, no matter what haram, whether major or minor, you commit, but do not forget your salah. Always remember to pray. It does not matter regardless of what position you're in life. Always remember to pray. Yes, you will feel disgusted. You will feel embarrassed to stand in front of Allah after committing a major sin. No matter is there any more major sin than shirk? Is there anything major than committing a murder? Think about it. Is there any major sin than committing zina? But still, when you go back to Allah, you have hope. Through salah. When you go back to Allah through salah, you have hope. Because that salah is the one that cleanses your heart. And one day, it will return you back to the path. Bear that in mind. Salah is the one that will return you back to the path of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And through salah is where you'll be able to find yourself. So don't neglect your salah and become heedless and lose hope in salah. But in fact, hold on to that salah so that that salah can liberate you, can provide you salvation one day, on a day that you don't even know when it might occur. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, huwa al-musta'an. May Allah help us. Ameen ya Rabbil Alameen. But beyond that, if you look at salah in itself, lughatan, you find that the ulama, what do they provide in lisan al-Arab, in kutub al-fiqh, and also the shurrah of this matin and other mutun, you find that they say that as-salatu linguistically means tutlaqu ala al-rahmah. It means rahmah, mercy. Some of them say tutlaqu ala al-du'a. Also, it's defined as du'a. When you raise your hands to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and supplicate. And also tutlaqu ala al-istighfar. In also known and defined as what? As istighfar. And beyond that is known as to be al-qira'ah, recitation. Question is, don't you find all of these in salah? You seek forgiveness from Allah in salah. You do dua in salah. You also recite in salah. You find mercy in salah. And the most mercy that you get in salah is that you feel the freedom, you feel the ease. You're knowing that you're a servant standing in front of the master of masters, where you don't even feel the embarrassment and humiliation that they might even humiliate you in return. Think about this. If you go to a boss today or to a human being and you're seeking something from them and they humiliate you, how do you feel? You don't feel let down, nor do you feel disgusted, nor do you feel embarrassed, but you feel humiliated. You feel broken. You feel less of a person. You feel unworthy. That's what happens. But in front of Allah, when you go there with humbleness, you feel powerful. You feel you've attained Allah's mercy. You feel at ease. You feel strong. Whereas Allah, you know definitely He's not going to humiliate you. He's not going to let you down. He's not going to be far away from you. He's literally far more closer to us than our own jugular vein. Imagine that. And that's the linguistic meaning of salah. Lakin, when you look at the actual jurisprudential definition, you find that Ibn Arafah, he provides us that قربة, the definition is قربة فعلية ذات إحرام وسلام أو سجود فقط. It is a deed that one draws close to Allah with, which requires action, فعلية, and we're going to come to describe what فعلية means and define it. ذات إحرام, which contains within it إحرام, تكبيرة الإحرام, Allahu Akbar, when you enter into salah, and salam. He didn't say aw salam, he said and salam, wa salam. And salam, when you say at taslim, assalamu alaykum, like that. Lakin then he said aw sujudin faqat. This is the main part. Aw sujudin, or sujud. He did not say and sujud, he said or sujud faqat, only. What does that show? It shows that the ulama, when they're providing a ta'rif, they provide the had very precisely, that هذا التعريف يكون جامعا ومانعا في نفس الوقت. That ta'rif literally collects and combines all of the necessary pieces that are required to define something, but also excludes that which is unnecessary, which might make the definition to be quite obscure, quite vague. It wouldn't really make sense. Now think about it. So what do you realize? مثلا, if you say a salah is that which has within it ihram and salam, isn't it? All of the salawat have ihram and salam. أليس كذلك? Lakin not every salah has a sajda. For example, like salatul janazah, does it have a sajda? Of course not. It doesn't have a sajda. So that means it wouldn't have a sajda, it wouldn't have a ruku', so the sujood is not part of it. What about though when you do sajdatul tilawah? It's a form of prayer, صح? But does it have ihram? Does it have salam? Does it have any of these two? No, it doesn't. So you notice that it's either sujood only, which is the sujood tilawa, or maybe it's ihram and salam only, where there is no sujood, no ruku', no any other movement in your salah itself. Imagine how beautiful that is. Look at how precise the definition is. So the scholars provided that, inshallah ta'ala, and it's something which you must understand as a talibul ilm, and كما يحثنا مشايخنا وخاصة شيخنا, he really encourages us that if a student wants to embark on a journey of becoming a student, a talibul ilm, first you can start memorizing the definitions. If you feel it's too much for you to memorize the matan, or maybe it's too much for you to memorize the little pieces that are necessary, then it's best that you start with the definitions. The ta'rifat really take you very far. Bear that in mind, because it helps you a lot. And most importantly, al-Arabiyyatu lughatuna. Al-Arabiyya is our language. You must study Arabic. Otherwise it becomes difficult. The more you grow in a fan, in a certain profession, or maybe a certain subject, the further you grow, the more you need the Arabic language. You cannot become a faqih without Arabic. You cannot become a mufassir without Arabic. Nor a muhaddith without Arabic, and you cannot do anything in the sciences of Islam without Arabic. Bear that in mind. It starts with Arabic. It's the language that literally Allah decided to send this religion with. So take pride on learning the language, inshaAllah ta'ala. لذلك, when we go directly into the fara'id al-salah now, bear in mind we said that babun fi fara'id al-salah. It is a chapter in what fara'id al-salah, the obligations of salah, wa sunaniha, and its sunan, also wa fada'iliha, and its meritorious deeds, wa makruhatiha, and the disliked acts of salah. Now we're not going to focus on all of these today. We're just going to focus on the first one, which is fara'id salah. So rather than going into breaking them down piece by piece, let's read them inshallah and then define them one after the other. And then once you've understood that precisely, then we can start breaking down as much as we could, so that we don't want to provide you so much information and then you leave with nothing. Rather, you should take that which is necessary and then leave with that, bi'idhnillah. It's about learning how to perfect your salah. As a side point, tangent, before we even move forward, I want to remind you this. Many complain about not finding khushu' in salah, and they wonder whether they will be able to find it in any day. Lakin the problem is that people don't realize this. Khushu' is not found in anything. You won't be able to find the sweetness of anything if you don't see the actual value of it. We might say we see the value of it through our minds, but what about our hearts? Have the hearts registered the value of the deed itself, or the action itself, or that which you are pursuing in life? Is there any way that you see the value to a level where the moment you stumble upon it, you feel that you are at ease, you feel that you love it so much, that you cannot let go of it, you want more of it, and you're looking forward to it? Do you have that, number one? Number two, how good have you mastered that which you want to pursue, or maybe that which you are pursuing? How good have you mastered the deed that you want to practice? Like salah today, مثلا, if you want to attain khushu', learn how to perfect your salah. If you find a mistake, how do you correct it? If you are to leave a piece of the salah, how do you fill in that gap? If you make a mistake that requires you to repeat your salah, how do you know when to do so? What are the differences between the fara'id of salah, the obligations of salah, which are the pillars of salah, the sunan of salah, the disliked acts of salah, the meritorious deeds of salah? What are the differences between all of those? Until you are able to dissect that deed in and out, it is impossible for one to attain khushu'. I promise you on that. The more you know about something, the more you fall in love with it. The less you know about something, the less you fall in love with it. Because when you love something, and your heart is already connected to it, you will be capable of explaining it the moment someone touches it upon you. You'll be giving an entire essay on it. Bear that in mind. Lakin when one is to ask about salah and they say, I love salah so much, ask that person if they can even correct their salah when there's a mistake. There is no connection between him or her with that salah itself, which is a disaster on its own. We have to be really careful in that. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala help us. So bear that in mind, inshallah. So fara'id salah, the fara'id of salah are an-niyatu wa takbiratul ihrami wal qiyamu laha wa qira'atul fatiha والقيام لها والركوع والرفع منه والسجود والرفع منه والجلوس من الجلسة الأخيرة بقدر السلام والسلام المعرف بالألف واللام والطمأنينة والاعتدال. Now, if you combine all of those, according to the Musannif rahimahullah, نفعنا الله به وبعلومه في الدارين, what does he say? فأما فرائض الصلاة فثلاثة عشر. The pillars of Salah, they are 13. But you find that in other texts, for example, like if you read in Ibn Ashir, they said that فرائض الصلاة ست عشرة. But then you find somewhere else about بخمسة عشر. For example, when it comes to the nusakh, the copies that the ulama, they worked hard to provide for the Ashmawiyya text. If you read the sharh, which is this one, Al-Jawahir al-Zakiyya, you notice that Al-Jawahir al-Zakiyya says that فَأَمَّا فَرَائِضُ الصَّلَاةِ فَخَمْسَةَ عَشَرٍ. They are 15. Whereas in the actual text, which was put together by Sheikh Naif al-Mubarak, Hafidhahullah lana, you notice that he says, he provides that in the nuskha, but after the tahqiq, he said that it's فَثَلَاثَةَ عَشَرٍ. They are 13. So we're going to take the 13 rather than the 15 or the 16, because there are others which the ulama, they have disputed upon. So we don't really want to discuss those at the moment. We want to focus on the ones that we have over here, which are 13. And because it's a beginner text, we don't want to go into a major text and then start mixing ourselves up. نشتت أذهاننا كما يقول الشيخ. We end up spreading your brain thin, your mind so thin that you don't know what to hold on to. You don't want to do that. You have to focus on one thing, inshallah ta'ala. So we'll focus on the text that we have. فَأَمَّا فَرَائِضُ الصَّلَاةِ فَثَلَاثَةَ عَشَرٍ. The pillars of salah, they are 13. And the first one is an-niyyah, intention. There's something that I'm going to want you to see on your own. An-niyyah, to intention. تكبيرة الإحرام والقيام لها وقراءة الفاتحة والقيام لها. Now before I carry on, النية, which is intention. تكبيرة الإحرام is to say Allahu Akbar. القيام لها is to stand for the takbirah. Not sitting, standing for the takbirah. قراءة الفاتحة, reading the Fatiha, reciting it. والقيام لها, and standing for it. والركوع, and then going down on ركوع. والرفع منه, and getting up from the ruku', والسجود, and going all the way down in prostration, والرفع منه, and getting up from the prostration, والجلوس من الجلسة الأخيرة بقدر السلام, and to sit on the last sitting for the period of salam, where you're sitting a little bit so that you can do the salam. Bear this in mind. He did not mention the julus, which you sit بين السجدتين, between the two sajdas, nor did he mention the tashahhud في الركعة الثانية, the tashahhud that you do in the second rak'ah, the sitting that you do in the second rak'ah. He didn't mention that. He only mentioned the julus, the sitting that you do while you are in the last sitting at the end of the last rak'ah, where you're waiting to do the salam. Then he says, وَالسَّلَامُ الْمُعَرَّفُ بِالْأَلِفِ وَاللَّامِ, and the salam which is to start with alif and lam, not salamu alaykum or salamu alaykum, no, assalamu alaykum. Assalamu alaykum. Bear that in mind. And then he says, وَالطُّمَأْنِينَةُ, and tranquility in salah, وَالْإِعْتِدَالِ, to wait for your limbs to do what? الاستقرار الأعضاء, the bodily limbs to do what? To hold on to the position until they are calm. That's what he mentioned, and he even says it over here, providing a slight sharh. المقصود به رجوع كل عضو لمكانه كالاستقامة في القيام. And the maqsood, the meaning of al-i'tidal is to do what? Is to return every single limb on its actual position, كالاستقامة في القيام, like standing straight in a state of qiyam, in a state of standing. When you're performing the standing pillar, you stand straight. For example, if you go to ruku' and then you have to rafu' minhu, isn't it? You have to get up from it. You don't just rush towards it and then you're halfway like this, halfway up standing, and you're not fully standing. You have to stand straight. Your body has to be straight, then you go down for the sujood. Otherwise, it becomes quite difficult. Lakin, when it comes to الطمأنينة and الاعتدال, اختلف العلماء في ذلك. هل هما من فرائض الصلاة أم من سنن الصلاة? Are they part of the fara'id, the pillars of salah, or are they from the sunan of salah? Where do they belong? Think about that. So what you've covered up to now is that these are the pillars of salah: النية وتكبيرة الإحرام وقراءة الفاتحة وتكبيرة الإحرام والقيام لها وقراءة الفاتحة والقيام لها والركوع والرفع منه والسجود والرفع منه والجلوس من الجلسة الأخيرة بقدر السلام والسلام المعرف بالألف واللام. And also he mentioned والطمأنينة والاعتدال. He added those. But don't pay attention to the last two. Pay attention to the ones that we've already mentioned, inshallah ta'ala. So after knowing this, what do you understand out of this? Look at zakah. I want you to look at zakah. You give zakah out with your hand. أليس كذلك? You just give it out with your hand and you make the intention of giving out zakah. صح? When it comes to siyam, you make intention, yeah, because the intention is literally the umbrella of every single deed. If there is no intention, deeds will not really make sense and they would not be accepted. Bear that in mind. You make intention, yeah, and then you literally have imsak. You hold on to eating, you stop from eating and drinking and committing any other that which you should not do while in a state of fasting, isn't it? But it's just certain bodily parts that are involved, not every single every single part. Is there any movement of the tongue in siyam? No, there's nothing as that mentioned. Lakin when it comes to salah, think this. Qurbatun fi'liyah is a deed that you commit as an action so that you can draw close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So what is that supposed to mean? What that's supposed to mean is that there are three types of af'al when it comes to salah. And it's the only deed that allows you to fulfill all of these acts in one place. The first one, هناك الفعل القلبي, is the action of the heart. Number one, al-fi'lu al-lisani, and there is the action of the tongue, and al-fi'lu al-badani, and the action of the limbs. There is no deed other than salah that puts your entire body into work so that you can serve Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Only salah, except for salah. Bear that in mind. That is amazing. And you won't find it except that you find a alim to explain it to you. The ulama, rahimahumullah, like the ones who literally did the sharh of this book, they provide you this beautifully. What do they tell you? فَأَمَّا فَرَائِضُ الصَّلَاةِ, when it comes to the fara'id of salah, تَنْقَسِمُ إِلَى ثَلَاثَةِ أَقْسَامٍ. These pillars of salah, they divide to three. Those which are known as to be qalbiyun, which relate to the heart, and those which are known to be lisaniyun, which relate to the tongue, and those which are known to be badaniyun, which relate to the limbs. And all of your limbs go into action. For example, when it comes to sujood, you go to sujood with all of your 7 limbs that your body has, all of them, regardless. Think about it. Is there any other deed greater than that? Even when you go for Hajj, you do tawaf, there is dua, there is the circumambulation and all of that. But there is no sujood in tawaf, isn't it? There is no ruku' in tawaf. There's no such that. But the actual salah itself there is. Think about it. While you're in salah, you're doing what? You're reciting constantly. And while you're in salah, your heart is connected there because you have to make intention at the beginning. Now this tells you something. What makes salah unique from every other deed is the fact that while you're in salah, salah is the only place where you talk to Allah and Allah talks back to you. But every other places, every other deeds that you do, it doesn't work that way, except for salah. You talk to Allah and Allah talks back to you. Allah talks to you and says what? Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen, Ar-Rahman Ar-Rahim, Maliki Yawmiddin, Iyyaka na'budu wa Iyyaka nasta'in. Now He's teaching you how to invoke Him. Invoke upon Him, إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين. اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. Then you read a surah, which is a very short surah. Think about it. That's what you do. And when you go for ruku' or when you go for sujood, when you go for a sajdat al-julus بين الركعتين on the first tashahud, التشهد الأول, and then you have al-julus من الجلسة الأخيرة, all of those, what do? You do adhkar, you do dua, you do istighfar, all of those, which means that you are invoking upon Allah and Allah is teaching you exactly how to do it. By telling you, teaching you from the Quran, He's speaking to you. It's the best deed that ever exists out there. Wallahi al-azim. Hence Allah took the responsibility of prescribing salah directly to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam in the 7th heaven. It's the only deed that you can talk to Allah and Allah talks back to you. But the rest of the other parts where you do dua, you're only supplicating Allah directly, but Allah is not talking back to you then. Because the Quran is talking to you, and when you're doing dua, you're talking to Allah. It's amazing how, if the more you come to understand about the beauty of salah, that's what you end up seeing, subhanallah. So those are among the things that we have when it comes to the fara'id of the salah. Now one thing to start with, bi'idhnillahi al-kareem, what are the do's and the don'ts when it comes to the fara'id of salah? that you need to be aware of, that you need to pay attention to, so that you don't ruin your salah, you don't destroy your salah, you don't invalidate your salah and reach to a position where you don't know how to correct and fix your salah. Because if a person cannot fix their salah, then that becomes a problem even in their deen. It's the second pillar of Islam, and you need to be careful with that. Because when it comes to zakah, you can ask a sheikh for that. When it comes to siyam, you can protect your siyam by asking a sheikh, because the things that you need are very minor. When it comes to hajj, you might find a leader with you that leads you there. But when it comes to salah, you're doing it on your own. Think about it. When it comes to salah, you're doing it on your own. When you go to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, أول ما يحاسب به العبد في يوم القيامة ماذا؟ صلاته. The first deed that a person will be accounted for in the hereafter is salah. In salaha, if it comes out as positive, successful, salahat sa'irul a'mal. All of the other deeds, what happens to them? They become healthy and agreed upon and succeed. They have succeeded. And Allah takes them in. Lakin if, for example, those deeds, those salah that he has prayed, they are all rejected and they're not accepted, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect us from that. That's not what we want to happen to us. So why not work upon the most important pillar of your deen, so that you may be able to protect it. And through there you attain khushu', you attain tranquility, you attain closeness, and the more you love it, because you know what to do throughout in your salah. And the more attention you pay in your salah, so that you don't make those mistakes and stumble upon them every now and then. Bear that in mind. So the first thing that we want us to look into is the an-niyyah itself, intention. Where does intention stand? When do you do it? How do you do it? You make the intention, first of all, by not pronouncing it, but in the heart. So, mathalan, for example, if you're standing for Salatul Dhuhr, if you make the intention of Salatul Asr, then your salah would not be accepted, mathalan. Lakin how about if you stood for Salatul Dhuhr, and then you finished praying, you came to realize that there is a Dhuhr of yesterday which you have not paid yet. You decide to say that, oh, so the Dhuhr I prayed now, I will cover this for the yesterday's one that I missed, and then I'll pray another Dhuhr for now. That wouldn't be accepted. That will be rejected straight away. So you have to be very careful with that. So the intention you make for the salah has to be according to that salah. And you don't want to ruin your intention, isn't it? So what happens is this. So that's one. Number two, what if you make the intention during the takbirah, while you're doing the takbirah, Allah, the moment you say Allah fi athna'i takbirah, that's when you remember, oh, I haven't made intention. And then you make the intention in the middle of the takbiratul ihram. La, that wouldn't be accepted. What if you make it after the takbiratul ihram, the moment you just come to the end of it and you put a full stop, Allahu Akbar, and then you remember. So if it cannot be accepted in the middle, how would it be accepted in the end? So in both scenarios, it cannot be accepted. But how about if I make my intention earlier, let's say like half a minute, 10 seconds, or I make the intention like the moment I'm sitting on my couch and it's salah time, I get up. Just as I get up and I'm approaching to my musalla, and as I approach, I make the intention for Salatul Dhuhr, then I stand to pray. Would that be accepted? Yes. That yasir of time that you spend over here, al-fawatul yasir, that is accepted. Okay? Lakin if you prolong the intention by saying you're going to make intention, you literally are upstairs. By the time you come downstairs and then you get into the musalla, you stand on your mat and start praying, that's too long. You don't want to do that. You want to make your intention while you're already there. That's the best intention that you ever make. And you have to define the intention itself. If you do not define the intention, it becomes quite problematic. You have to define the intention for that salah. How about the sunan? When it comes to the sunan of salah, do we define the intention for those? When it comes to the salah itself, how do I make my intention for the salah that I missed, for the salah that I have to pray now? Mathalan, when it comes, or if, for example, I am praying, I enter the masjid and then I saw people praying and I want to follow them because perhaps they are praying the salah that I'm intending to pray now. Can I follow them? Inshallah ta'ala, as we move on the do's and don'ts that you have to know so that you can protect your salah, we will do them in the next lesson bi'idhnillahi al-kareem. Wa sallallahu wa sallam wa baraka ala nabiyyina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in.